so there's, I'm gonna take a second and show you a couple of things that when you're welding your body and this is interstructure welding, but it applies to sheet metal on your Mustang as well. I know the welder's loud in the background, but when you're welding that onto your Mustang, I'm gonna show you kind of how to tighten up these plug welds, and I'm gonna show you how to do a plug weld. I believe a plug weld is superior to a spot weld. That's where we drill a hole and we fill that hole up with a weld with like your MIG welder or whatever. But let me show you a couple of things that I do that makes this work a little better. That is a plug weld. That's a screw hole. That's how I pull these together tight. I actually use cap screws, and I'll show you down here in the end. I'll use those screws. I'll put as many of those in there as I need. I'll just weld up those holes when I'm done, but that pulls this metal in tight. Now right here, if you'll notice, I'm using a pair of clampy things, these little vice grip actions, and what I'm trying to do is get that hole as tight as I can get it. Now there's times where I can't get this as tight as I want it to be, and when I can't, I'll use this. So I'll use like a chisel if I need to, and I'll put it in here and I'll tap it down. I'll tap the edges. I'm gonna press this up. The tighter your gaps are on your sheet metal, the better your welds are gonna be. And so that's like a critical thing. I need to scrub that off with a brush so you can just kind of see it. But we're gonna push these gaps in tight. I not only plug weld mine, I'm gonna weld along this seam right here in little strings. It's called a stitch weld, but I'm not really stitch welding because I'm running a little small bead. Your inner structure is thicker than your actual body sheet metal, so it can take a little bit more heat than what the others can. But if you'll just look at this, that right there is a plug weld. That plug weld, if you'll notice, is completely filled with weld, and it's got it. Now, that's as much as you really would do. That's better than it was from the factory. I'm actually gonna put small, short beads here, 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 and all the way down this seam. It just adds structural integrity to it. If you ever had to pull this wheelhouse off of this car and replace it, it's gonna be terrible. But I'm not building this car for it to be rebuilt. I'm building it to be built one time, and I'll tell you, I think that I'll be dead before all this stuff is nasty. If you'll notice, I've got weld through primer also over. See, these plug welds are not done correctly. That's an incorrect plug weld. That's gotta be, I'm gonna go through and do all of those and correct all of that. That's what it looks like when they do it from the factory. When it's not factory Ford, I'm talking about factory Japan. And anyway, I'll fix those. These plug welds, that's what a plug weld should look like. It should be completely filled with weld. Again, that's a screw hole. I'm gonna fill that up with weld too, but this is what a plug weld looks like. All of these holes, and you wanna get them super tight. That way, when you're putting this car together, I'll show you what it looks like when I get finished. Let me weld it up. So this is what it looks like And if you'll notice, I put an extra weld. There's plug welds. There's the extra welds. And around here I corrected these. So that's the whole piece. That's how you want to weld your inner structure on. I think that's most secure, probably the best way.